Hey everyone, Mitch coming in from the Commander Score Studio. Welcome to the show. So, on this episode, this commander is crazy. And so is the deck, and so is the price of the deck, because the commander itself is like 1/3 of the price of the deck. And yeah, you can still have a very, very, very heavy-hitting commander deck for this price. Let's jump into it. So we've got Zhulodok, if I could say the name right. Zhulodok, Void Gorger, whatever. It's called Big Z. Yeah, Z. Zhulodok. There you go. 7/4 Eldrazi for 5 in a colorless. Colorless spells you cast from your hand have with mana value of 7 or greater have Cascade. And again, of course, that means that you reveal cards off the top of your library so you hit something that is smaller than it essentially. Then you cast that for free. So yeah, a lot of crazy plays can happen with something like this in play. This commander is a lot for your opponents to deal with. It has a lot of potential and a lot of crazy things can happen. So again, crazy commander, also crazy price. Again, this is a $10 commander itself. That being said, like I mentioned, it's only about 1/3 of the cost of the actual deck, because on Moxfield, according to Moxfield, is $29.81 for this build. So again, if you are interested in this, make sure you check out that deck list link in the description below and consider picking this up. Keep in mind that it does not include the cost of shipping or the cost of basics, but yeah, you might have some basics flying around for this. Regardless, yeah, a very cool commander, one that again says, hey, let's ramp. Let's get some mana. Let's cast some big scary things that lead to even more big scary things, and a lot of value to be had for there. So again, your opponents will just be sweating, just be dripping with sweat when they're like, oh gosh, what are they? Oh, they cast something big. Oh no, what are they getting off the top? What are they getting off the top? What are they getting off the top? It's a lot of fun. Anyways, let's jump into the tactics. So let's start things off with tag number 1, Hypercharge. Of course, first up, there's Wayfarer's Bauble. Pay 2 tap, sacrifice, go into basic land, in the play tap. What's not to love about that? Speaking of loving something, Astral Cornucopia, XX and X for the cost. Enters the battlefield with X charge counters on it. Temperatures a color at 1 mana of that color, free charge counter on this. Yeah, basically, again, earlier in the game, a low to the ground mana rock, but later in the game, spend a lot of mana on it. And again, of course, if you spend 9 or more, essentially, right, you're going to be triggering your commander, because 9, this is variables of 3. You know what I mean? Anyways, variables of 2. Let's go Everflowing Chalice. Cost 0 multi-kicker 2. Enters battlefield, they charge counter on it for each time it's kicked. Basically, taps for half the amount of mana that you put into it. Next up, Felwar Stone. Taps for 1 mana that our opponents have. We don't really care. We've got a colorless deck, so we don't care. Whatever mana you have, let us tap for that. Next up, Fractured Power Stone. Taps for a colorless. Lovely. Cost 2. Very effective, very efficient. Speaking of which, Guardian Isle does end the battlefield tap. Taps for a colorless. Pay 2, make into a 2/2 until end of turn. Then there's Mind Stone. Taps for a colorless, pay 1 tap, sacrifice to draw a card to replace if we need to. City Obelisk enters battlefield tap, can tap for a colorless as well. Prismatic Lens enters battlefield untap, taps for a colorless, or we can pay mana to filter. We're probably never going to be doing that, but yeah, you never know. Coalition Relic, another great one. This one does cost 3. Can tap for mana right away, or we can tap and basically store up a mana for the next turn, and then just utilize that the next turn for 2 mana and 1. Then we've got Worn Power Stone, always going to be tapping 2 for us. Basically, pay 3, enters battlefield tap, taps for 2. Hedron Archive does not enter battlefield tap, so you can utilize it right away. Does cost 4 though, or can pay 2 and 10 sacrifice to draw 2 cards. Next up, Acre Elixir. That does deal with the planar die. We don't really care about that. It's just a mana rock that does cost 4 and taps for 2. Like, you know, Sisay's Ring, exact same thing. Urgolem's Eye, exact same thing. Sunspear Crystal, not the exact same thing. This one taps for 2 as well. Pay 2 tap, sacrifice. Exile any of your target player's graveyard, so get rid of a lot of fantastic things. Draw a card as well, a great card against, you know, Reanimator decks, self-mill decks, etc., etc. And then finally, Dreamstone Hedron, cost 6, taps for 3, and also it's going to have us draw 3 cards if we pay 3 tap and sacrifice it. So a great card, and yeah, a lot of ways to ramp really quickly with this kind of a deck. But on top of ramping, let's move on to attack number 2. Less is more, because paying less for our cards is even better. Helm of Awakening is a great one. Spells cost 1 to cast. Now, keep in mind, this does help our opponents, but again, we're going to do some crazy things with this deck. So yeah, reducing the cost of a lot of our things, including those mana rocks, to get more and more out more quickly, to get us more and more big spells more quickly. We're going to have a lot more value than our opponents are going to get out of it. Next up, Foundry Inspector. Artifact spells you cast cost 1 to cast. This only affects us, only affects our artifacts, but still, it's going to make a giant dent into a lot of the cost of a lot of our cards in this deck. Next up, when it comes to cost reduction, let's talk about tech number 3, coupons, because yeah, we've got some creatures and some cards that might cost a bit more, but we can cast them for even cheaper. Barricade Breaker has Improvise, so our artifacts can cast a spell. Each artifact that we tap essentially taps for 1, and this say 7/5 the text each combat of Fable. Again, this does cost 7, so it will trigger our commander, which is fantastic. And again, we can have artifacts just tap for it, even ones that aren't mana rocks, to help it get out into play for maybe even free. Speaking of free, Mirror Enforcer, yeah, probably is going to always be free for us. Affinity for artifacts does cost 7, so again, will trigger our commander. It's just a simple 4/4, but again, basically getting free Cascade, that can be absolutely huge. Speaking of which, Sojourner's Companion, basically the exact same thing in a way. A 4/4 for 7. Affinity for artifacts, but also has artifact land cycling. If we need to go get an artifact land, great, you can do that. But more importantly, again, basically a free card for us. Next up, Gate Colossus. We do have some gates in this deck to reduce the cost. It's going to cost 1 to cast for each gate we control. It's an 8/8 that can't be blocked by small creatures, power 2 or less. On top of that, whenever a gate enters battlefield under our control, we can put Gate Colossus on top of our library. If we want to re-get it, we can. Next up, Walking Skyscraper, an 8/8. It's going to cost 1 to cast for each modified creature you control, which there are some. It costs 8 trample, Hexproof as long as it's untapped. Then there's Ancient Stone Isle. This one's a lot of fun. A 12/12 with a flash. It's going to cost 1 to cast for each attacking creature. It's got trample, so yeah, although this does cost 10, it can cost as low as 0 flash speed. When it dies, we get a 6/12 with trample as well. And finally, Melwork Colossus. This one is massive. This one is huge. A 10/10 that does cost 11, but basically it's always going to cost 0 for us. It's going to cost X less cast for the total mana value of non-creature artifacts you control. Again, already talked about a lot of non-creature artifacts. We've got even more to talk about, but yeah, just even having a lot of mana rocks in play will make this cost essentially nothing. Also, sacrifice your artifacts, return from your graveyard to your hand. So yeah, recast this Cascade again. Lovely. Now it's time for us to move on to tag number 4, Dig Down, because yeah, our commander is providing us with a lot of value, but we've got even more ways to dig down into our deck for that value. First up, Endless Atlas. Pay 2 tap, draw a card, activate if you control 3 or more lands with the same name. Next up, I have Vecna. Ledger artifact that costs 2, enters battlefield, we lose 2 life, draw a card. Lovely. If we get upkeep, we may pay 2 if we do, draw a card, and lose 2 life. So yeah, it's a repeatable card advantage source for us. Speaking of which, Investigator's Journal. It costs 2, enters battlefield, a number of suspect counters on equal the greatest number of creatures a player controls. That might even be us again with all that cascading value. Might even have 10 plus creatures. Lovely, that can set ourselves up. Pay 2 tap, remove a suspect counter from it, draw a card. And for desperate, pay 2, sacrifice it, draw a card as well. Next up, Key of the City. This one can be tapped and we discard a card, and 1 creature is unblockable. We've got some really heavy hitters out there that making them unblockable can be quite deadly. Again, our commander can actually technically be a 3-shot KO, right? On top of that, when it comes untapped, we can pay 2 if we do, draw a card. So kind of like a rummaging effect, like a delayed rummaging effect for us there. Next up, Mask of Memory. Speaking of getting creatures through, whenever creature controls combination player, we can draw 2 if we do discard a single card. There's Hilda's Crown of Winter, which can actually help us get creatures through. Pay 1, tap target creature. Its ability costs 1 to activate during your turn. Lovely, so free. Pay 3, sacrifice it, draw a card for each tap creature opponent's control. So this can just be a giant, massive draw spell for us as well. Next up, Pen of Prosperity. Find a friend. Enters battlefield on the control opponent of your choice. Yeah, make a deal, essentially. Pay 2, tap, draw a card, then play a land from your hand on the battlefield. Then the owner of it, that's us, does that essentially. So give this to someone else. They're going to do that. Then we're going to do that. So yeah, make a deal with someone. Maybe you say like, hey, you know what? Okay, let's agree not to take each other out until the end, and we can both just really benefit from something like this. Next up, Endbringer. Speaking of benefiting, and untaps during every other player's each untap step, which is amazing. Tap to ping something for 1, or pay 1, tap target creature can attack or block this turn, or pay 2 colorless, tap, draw a card. So yeah, basically, hey, a great repeatable way to draw a lot of cards. Speaking of which, Lore Seeker Stone. Pay 3, tap, draw 3 cards. It's going to cost 1 more to activate for each card in our hand, but again, we've got no hand. Cool. Draw 3 for 3. Finally, Sandstone Oracle, a 4/4 Flying Sphinx. Does cost 7, so again, will trigger our commander. Enters the battlefield, choose an opponent. That player's got more cards in their hand. We draw cards a little different. So yeah, this can just be a great way to draw like 7 cards even. If we have no cards in our hand, opponent has a full hand. Cool. We just draw a ton of cards and get a lot of cascade value for us. Moving on, let's talk about tech number 5, Value Town, because yeah, we've got even more ways to get even more value out of our cards. First up, Manifold Key. This one's quite simple, but quite effective. Pay 1, tap, untap on a target artifact. Again, we talked about a lot of artifacts that we have, a lot of mana rocks that we have that can tap for a good amount of mana. Basically, this can become an effective kind of mana rock untapper for us to help us tap for even more, or pay 3, tap, target creature can be blocked this turn. Yeah, a great way to get some of our big creatures through. And we can swing at those big creatures right away with Crashing Drawbridge, an incredible card, 0/4 Defender. Tap creature control, again, haste till turn. Basically, haste for any kind of a deck out there, which is great. Next up, Trader's Post. Trading Post, said it wrong. Sorry. Artifact for 4, pay 1, tap, discard a card, gain 4 life. So for desperate, sure. Pay 1, tap, pay 1 life. Create a 0/1 goat creature token. So if we need to just make a little blocker or whatever, we can. Pay 1, tap, sacrifice a creature, turn an artifact card from your grave to your hand. So this can be huge and getting us something big. And then also pay 1, tap, sacrifice artifact, draw a card if we really need to. We can. We can also set our graveyard up for success with something like God Pharaoh's Gift. You have command return basically exile a creature card from your graveyard. If you do get a token copy of it, that's a 4/4 zombie. And yeah, we've got some really good creatures with some really good effects, so getting extra copies of them once they're dealt with, that can be absolutely great. There's Ingenuity Engine, yet another great 7 mana or more spell, essentially, right? Cascade. Yeah, we get to Cascade further. This one has Cascade, and also, again, it's going to have a Cascade 2 more times thanks to our commander. Pay 1, tap, sacrifice an artifact, return artifact you control to its owner's hand. Can be this. We can sacrifice a small artifact, bring this back, recast it, and all of a sudden, even more Cascade value. Next up, Mascot Exhibition, a great card as well. Lesson for 7 mana. You get a 2/1 white and black inkling with flying. You get a 3/2 spirit. You get a 4/4 elemental. You get all the things essentially. And again, you get a Cascade twice thanks to this. So fill the board with some tokens and also get some extra value of Cascade. There's Thundersteel Colossus, a great vehicle for this deck. 7/7 vehicle, trample and haste, crew 2. So a low crew cost. And all of a sudden, we've got, a 7/2 with trample and haste that can stick around and just avoid board wipes as well. There's Maelstrom Colossus. Speaking of, again, cascading. 7/7 with Cascade. So again, Cascade 3 times with this, essentially. Next up, Suchi Gave Guard. A great card for a lot of value. 8/8 Vigilance with Ward Force, so hard to deal with. On top of that, when it does die, we get 8 mana, and we don't lose that mana in steps and phases end. So yeah, send into combat willy-nilly, and get into some bad situations maybe with that's fine. All of a sudden, if it gets taken out, you get a ton of mana, a mana boost for you that you can utilize. Or yeah, we've got ways to sacrifice an artifact as well, so make sure you sacrifice this for just a lot of immediate value. But now let's move on to tactic number 6, bring it back. Because again, yeah, sometimes the best call is just to redo the things we've already done, right? We're being able to recast a creature that has mana value 7 or greater, and all of a sudden, we get to trigger our commander again for digging down deeper into our deck. More Cascade value. What's not to love about that? So set yourself up for success. So like Decoction Module. Yeah, you can get energy with this. Doesn't really matter. What does matter is pay 4, tap, return target creature you control to its owner's hand. This can be a great way to protect a key piece, like our commander maybe even. Or more importantly, yeah, just on your turn, bounce a creature back to your hand. Cool, or before your turn, I guess I should say. And then next turn, just recast it. Again, if it costs 7 or more, we cascade again. Speaking of which, Dragon Mask, another kind of weird way to do this. Artifact for 3, pay 3, tap, target creature control, it's +2/+2. At the end of the turn, if the creature's in play, return to its owner's hand. It's like a delayed bounce effect and also a way to pump a creature. But again, a way to say, let's get some extra value by getting this back into my hand and I can reuse it when I need to. But now let's move on to tactic number 7. We're going to talk about the golden pig of this deck, which of course the number 1 card out of our 99. And the golden pig of this deck is Umbilicus, a great card A deck like this. Artifact for 4 at the beginning of each player's upkeep. The player may pay 2 life. If they don't, they return a permanent they control to its owner's hand. So essentially, hey, let's just get this in play. This might hurt your opponents, so they have to say, I don't want to bounce anything back to my hand at the replay it, so I'll pay 2 life. But we're like, yeah, I love to bounce things back to my hand. So yeah, sure, that thing out there costs 7. It's got a great ETB. Whatever, bring it back to my hand. Awesome. Replay it, cascade again. So yeah, this can give you an absurd amount of value throughout the game while also potentially punishing your opponents. A great card for this deck, and definitely, in my opinion, worthy of the title of Golden Pig. But now let's move on to tactic number 8, away with you, because yeah, we've got some ways to wrench into our opponent's plans, and first up, a big wrench to throw is Neverwhelm's Disc. I guess it's a disc. Anyways, enters the battlefield, tap, pay 1, tap, destroy artifacts, creatures, and enchantments, a great panic button for us. Next up, Introduction to Annihilation. Exile target non-land permanent controller, draws a card. Yeah, sometimes things just need to go, and giving them a card, that's not a big deal, when it comes to actually saying, like, that just really needs to go. Next up, Bane of Balagad, a creature that can just be absolutely great for us. Again, 7 mana, keep that in mind. Attacks, defending player exiles 2 permanents they control. So, yeah, this is another card that's like, if you just let me keep swimming with this, you're going to be in big trouble, or if I've got ways to get it through. Next up, Meteor Golem, a 3/3, very simple, ETB, destroy target, non-land permanent, opponent controls. Then there's Scour for Existence for 7 mana, again, instant speed, cascade, lovely, exile target permanent. Spine of Ishsaw, yet another great 7 mana removal spell, ETB, destroy target permanent. On top of that, it's great from the battlefield. This comes back to our hand so we can replay it. Again, we do have ways to sacrifice artifacts, so please keep that in mind. Next up, Breaker of Armies, 10/8, all creatures able to block it, do so. Basically, can be kind of like a mini board wipe in a way, because 10 is a good amount of power to take out a good amount of creatures, swing at someone, get through on them with your other creatures, and also take out a lot of their creatures. Moving on, 8/8 Trampler, or not Trampler, Annihilator. There we go. That's even more brutal, obviously. For 8, Ulamog's Crusher. Whenever it attacks, it's going to attack each combat if able, and also, again, whenever it attacks, the defending player sacrifice 2 permanents. So, good luck to them. Annihilator is brutal. Artisan of Kozilek, another great one. 10/9 with Annihilator 2. On top of that, when we cast it, return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield, so a great reanimation effect there. Hand of Emrakul as well, a 7/7. And it's got Annihilator 1, so yet another way to wrench your opponent's plans by forcing them to sacrifice things while we swing at them with a big creature. But now let's move on to tactic number 9, heavy hitters, because yeah, we've got a lot of creatures that can hit pretty hard, and ones that can bring in more creatures in play like Mirror Battlesphere for 7, Mirror Construct for 7, ETBs make 4 Mirror, and also when you swing, you can tap those Mirror and punish your opponent even further. Next up, Necron Monolith, a 7/7 flying and indestructible, crew 4. Plenty of ways to crew it. On top of that, whenever it attacks, you mill 3. For each creature milled this way, you get a 2/2. So yeah, even those can help crew it later as well. Next up, Phyrexian Triniform, a 9/9. When it dies, we get 3 3/3s. Top of that, we can encore this back out for absurd value. Just an absurd amount of value out of that. Speaking of value, Desolation Twin, a 10/10 for 10. And when it can, it's cast, we get a friend. It comes in play with a friend. We get a 10/10 Eldrazi in play with it as well. So yeah, some really heavy hitters that we can take advantage of with a deck like this. But now as this episode is coming to a close, comment below in the comments below. That's kind of redundant. Comment below in the comments below. I'm just going to stick with it. And let me know what your thoughts are on this deck. And of course, if you are interested in this deck, again, it is very budget friendly. Even though the commander is like 1/3 of the cost of the deck, it's still very budget friendly. Make sure you check out that deck list link in the description below. So yeah, comment below, check out that deck list link. And of course, as always, thanks again and have a good one. This show and episodes like this one are possible thanks to viewers like you. If you're looking for an easy way to help support this show, make sure that you like, share, and subscribe. Also, hit that bell notification icon so you don't miss any new episodes. You can also go check out our playmats and other merchandise at thecommandersquarters.com. We also have a ton of brand new t-shirt designs in stock, so make sure you check out those as well. Another easy way to support this show is with our TCG Player affiliate links. So whether you're buying a deck or individual cards, you can use this general link right here or one in the description. And the final way that you can support this show is by supporting us directly by becoming a patron. There are many benefits to being a patron, and I truly couldn't do this without all of their support.